Well, good morning. Welcome to the Church360 members webinar on offerings. I hope you all have your coffee and you're ready to dig into Church360 members. If I could do a quick microphone check, make sure that you're hearing me. If you could maybe respond that you do hear me this morning, then we'll just confirm that everything's working as expected. All right, very good. I'm getting some confirmations there. You sound good. That's what I like to hear. All right, very good. Let's begin. All right. Church360 members offerings. I'll be your instructor today. My name is Tim Burt. I'm a software support technician. I've been here approximately 4 years. And my contact information is there, my email address and phone number in case you have any questions. Just a note, all phones and microphones have been muted. You can type any questions into the question window. I will answer all questions at the end of the class, and I'll also have a support person with us on the webinar today, also answering questions as we go along. The support staff today is Rod Kiles. He's our manager of our department here at Concordia Technology, and his our contact information is available there on the screen as well. All right, let's go through just a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. First of all, we'll be just discussing the class agenda as we've started already. We'll do an overview. We'll have a time of discussion and training. Then we'll have a 5-minute intermission somewhere around the middle. Then we'll go into additional training and discussion. We'll have a short quiz at the end. It's nothing big. It's just to kind of see if you've listened and learned something today from today's webinar. And then we'll have our question and answer session. All right, very good. I'm going to turn off the webcam and we're going to continue then into the webinar itself. All right, first we're going to cover the login screen for Church360 members. You will be logging into your own unique portal for your church. This is where you would be entering in your email address as well as your password. If you have forgotten your password, what you can do is just enter in the email address that you signed up with, the one that you've used to create your user profile, and then you would click on the forgot your password option. And that would take you through resetting your password if you've lost it for some reason. Another nice option here in the window is that you can choose to select to remember me, and then that way you don't always have to use your username and password to sign in. It will just take you into the application itself right away. But in case there are issues just with confidentiality in your office, you may not want to use that option because anyone could follow after you and sign in and get access to 360 members right off the bat. So that will be up to you whether you want to use that option or not. This morning, I'll go ahead and sign in. All right, and today, since we're covering offerings, there are a number of different areas that we're going to, prerequisites that we're going to cover first. We'll need to talk about funds and envelopes and pledges before we get into the actual offering entry. Those are all areas that would be good to have in place already before, of course, that you can enter in offerings. Let's go to the funds first. Going to navigate over here to settings in the upper right corner and click on the settings icon. There we have a number of collections listed, and funds is one of those. Pictured here are a number of contribution funds that we have already set up. A fund is used to track why and how much was given to the church in different areas. You can see several here on the left. Building fund, the general fund is the common one that's used most often for offerings. You have other ministries that you might have at the church. So you'll have this left side here as your list of funds. They'll be in alphabetical order. And following that here to its right are the fund numbers that you've given them. There's no, I mean, you can come up with your own way of numbering. Most often, some of the more commonly used funds, you may want to start off with the single digits, like the general fund would be 1. Later on in entering offerings, you'll just be able to select numbers to apply to the offering that you're entering. We'll go over that more in just a moment. Here is the color column where you can assign a color to the contribution fund. Here is just a rundown of what has already been contributed year to date. And then over on the far right side is a circle, gray circle with a minus button. This is our delete button. And when you hover your cursor over it, it turns red. And once you click on it, you'll see the option to, well, in this case, deactivate or delete. All right, let's go into the fund numbering just a little bit more here. Since this list is alphabetized, some of the numbers that you may have assigned to your contribution funds may be out of order. You may like to see your funds listed according to the number that you've assigned them. We have provided a way that you can do that. For example, here with the general fund, I'm going to left click on this fund button here, where we could put the number in front of the fund name. We could do that with several here. I'll just do the first 3. Okay, and then we'll refresh our page. I'm sorry, I missed one step in there. Let's go back to the general fund. It always helps to click the save button on the right side. Any changes that you make, you'll want to click save, obviously. Once we now refresh the screen, you'll see that the funds now are in a numeric order because we placed that number in front of the fund. So that's another option if you don't care for the alphabetizing of the fund names. I'm going to go ahead and remove these real quick. All right, so we've kind of covered the names, the numbers. I wanted to show how these color coordination works with the funds. I'm going to just briefly take you to the offerings window where we'll see how the color of the funds kind of come into play. You've named the funds, you've assigned them a color. This is the offering display screen, and this will then color coordinate with those colors you've assigned. So that's kind of helpful. It's something that certainly is optional. You don't have to fret over what color you assign, but that is available. Let's go back to our fund screen. As the year progresses and there's offerings that come in for these different funds, the amount of money that has been given to those throughout the year will be listed here. As you can see in this demo database, 35,000 plus dollars have been given to the general fund thus far in 2019. $50 here to the music ministry. The nice thing about this particular fund display is that if you wanted to see what composes that amount of money, you can just click on this button. This is a link. So I'm going to click on this $50 button. This will take us to the offering view and show us the offerings that accumulate to that dollar amount. So there's the $50 that I gave here in 2019. Let's go back to the fund screen. For example, then the general fund, if we click on this link, it will take us back to the offerings view where, again, from January 1st through today, year to date, this shows all of the offerings that have been given to the general fund. So that's a nice way of analyzing or digging in deeper into the funds and the totals for the year. All right, and then the other option here that I wanted to show you is that sometimes you might have a fund that you don't necessarily want to have appear in a contribution statement. And so there's a way that we can take that fund off. For example, here we have VBS fees, which isn't tax deductible, and it might be used just to collect the fees that families want to pay for their children to attend VBS. So there is this option here. I'm going just to click in this shaded row here of the VBS fees fund, and you'll see the checkbox here to exclude a fund from contribution statements. That would keep it from appearing on the statement at the end of the year or quarterly or biannually if you send those out. All right, and then here on the far right, as I mentioned earlier, is our delete button. If there is a fund that you made a mistake in creating, you can certainly deactivate it by clicking first the circle minus button that appeared in red, and then it will give you the option to deactivate. Once it's deactivated, it will put a line through the fund name, but if you do need to reactivate it, the symbol here on the far right is now a plus sign, and you can restore that once again. Okay. Also here in the upper right corner, we have the ability to download the fund page. And if we do that here, let's see, let's do it with Excel. What we'll see then is just exactly what you had on the screen. This is just a way that you could then print off the fund listing, maybe for those that you might have as volunteers who are doing the counting, who need to know, what fund number or what fund to apply an offering to. So that's available. The other option here is just to print it right from the screen. That takes us to a preview window where you can right-click on the display and choose print. We have it here in portrait view. If you go to landscape view here at the top, it will add the additional column on whether the fund has been excluded. You'll just get a little bit more data on the screen. But in this case, the portrait view just works out fine, and it also gives the total that has been given year to date. So that covers the two options here at the top. Oh, and we should also cover here adding a fund. If you needed to add a fund to this list, let's go with Easter Lily Fund. Type in the name. The next number that we have available is 14. We'll give it the green color, and we click Add Fund. It appears at the top of the list when you first add it, but if you were to refresh the screen, which I've just done, it would then put Easter lily in alphabetical order. And then you can edit the fund name at any point in time. If you didn't like lilies, you can say Easter flowers, Christmas flowers, so forth. You can also change the number. Just make sure that you click Save here on the far right side. And then to cover deleting any fund, in this case, the option here to delete is available because there's no history against the Easter flowers fund that I have created. So we can go ahead and delete it, and it will delete it off. But once there's history behind it, you won't be able to delete the fund. It has giving history. So you'll be able just to deactivate it, which puts the line through it, as we covered earlier. All right, now let's go on to the next area of interest. Let's talk about envelopes. If we navigate here to settings in the upper right corner, once again, under the collections, there is the option here for envelopes. This is where you will assign your membership, your contributors, envelope numbers. Now, this is just optional. If you had been using Shepherd Staff in the past, one of our other church management products, in that particular software, it was required that you assign envelope numbers to contributors. But in Church360 members, you have the option whether just to enter offerings in by name, or you can assign an envelope number, which then may once again help with confidentiality. If you have volunteers and counters that come in, you may not want them to see names, and there's certainly ways of changing the permissions for a user of Church360 to where they would only see the envelope numbers and be able to log offerings in through using the number. But here in the envelope screen, this is showing information as of today. You'll see that in the upper left corner. You don't have the option of changing the day. This view here of envelopes is as of today. We have the name of the contributor here on the left side, the left column. If they're married, we have the spouse's name here. And if they are going to contribute jointly together, they do need to be marked as married in the people area, the membership portion of the application. In this case here, Dave and Sue Abbott are giving jointly. The box is checked here in the contributes jointly column. They both have been assigned envelope 101. If for some reason that this couple wanted to still give separately, you would then just, we could undo this contributes jointly. You would have Dave Abbott up here. It still shows that he's married to Sue Abbott, but he is giving separately, and then Sue Abbott is listed down here with Dave Abbott as her spouse, but they are giving separately from the way this is marked over here. I'm going to go ahead and set this back to contributes jointly. The current envelope number column shows the current envelope that they're using as of today. We then have a column here for don't renumber. This is a way of holding either the number that they've been assigned in the past from year to year, or in some cases, you may not want to assign a number. For example, here we have Jacob and Lacey Abbott. We don't want to assign them an envelope number, so what we would do is click on the checkbox to don't renumber, and then they don't get an envelope number assigned. It's kind of locked down with this shaded bluish color, showing that nothing would change. Now, in the same way, we could click the don't renumber for Dave and Sue, and their envelope number of 101 would continue to be kept year after year. But in most cases, A lot of churches will want to reassign and renumber envelopes from year to year because they buy a certain number of envelopes and they want to keep that number down to as minimum a number as possible. So they may want to renumber their contributors alphabetically and sequentially for those who get envelopes. And then this last column here is a way of then assigning a new envelope number. You could do that manually one by one if you just have a small number of changes to make, or we do have an option to renumber the whole listing as we talked about in alphabetical and sequential order. Let's just first take Dave and Sue Abbott. If we wanted to, let's say possibly that they've transferred out and we don't want to renumber them and give them and allow them to keep envelope number 101. So in this case, what I would do is I would zero out the field, and once I've zeroed it out, then I would say don't renumber, and then that way they won't be given an envelope number next year. Let's talk about running a full church-wide renumbering operation here. At the moment, we've got this screen filtered here in the upper right corner with an everyone filter, and that's just showing everyone in your database as we scroll up and down. And we may not want to assign an envelope number to all these people because they might not all be members and they may not be giving. So what we can do here is we want to isolate just those people here on the screen that we want to assign envelope numbers to. So if you were going to do this across the board for the whole church, what you might want to do is use the clear all option, which will clear the last column of numbers here so that we can kind of start from scratch. You'll see a black dot to the right of the field showing that a change has been made, and you know, once you've either applied the envelope numbers to apply them now, or if you've scheduled this to apply later when January 1 rolls around, this will show you that a change has been made in the line. In this case, I've just wanted to clear all the numbers from the next envelope column. I want to go ahead and filter this display just to show, let's say, our members. And you can see here between the difference between everyone, which is 243 people, and our members, that knocks it down to 199. Now, in addition to these, there may not be some members who continually give. So what we're going to do is kind of apply a filter to this display on the fly. Our filter button here is this 3-bar button here on the right. We can click that. That opens up the filter drawer. And because we have already chosen the members smart group here, it already has some traits in the filter that it's using. People who are living and people who are members now. What I might want to do is go ahead and add a trait of people who have contributed to any of our funds, let's say during the year 2018, any amount. So that way on the display, what we'll have is only people who are living, only people who are members of the church, and only those who have contributed to any fund during the 2018 year. I can close this filter box. That's what's currently being displayed here on the screen. That's 112 people from the 100 and what do we have, 99, I think, members. So let's just say that these are the the contributors that we want to assign an envelope number to. As I said earlier, we've already cleared the last column of all prior numbers. We can then choose the option here in the lower left corner to renumber them beginning with the number 1. You can change this number here to any number that you'd like, but we'll just start with 1 at the moment. I'm going to click renumber, and you'll see here then on the far right that the next envelope number has been assigned in sequential order. As we go down our I think it was 112 people. Now what you see here is that 71 envelopes have been assigned, but many of these envelopes are for married couples. And so the total amount of envelopes assigned will be quite a bit less than the total number of contributors represented, because this 112 is taking into account the spouses as a separate person. So that would be a way to number sequentially. What you could do too, as I mentioned earlier, is that we can maybe start with a 101 instead, and we can choose to renumber. And that begins the sequence with a number 101 down, of course, to the 171. And so what you may also have in your church situation is a group of people who may not have an envelope number, but they do give maybe electronically or in some other means, and so you don't want to assign them an envelope number in the usable sequence area range of numbers, but you can still do that through using still additional filtering here. Let's just say that we had another group of people that that maybe are who give electronically. I don't have a smart group at the moment. I don't believe that uses that, but let's just say, let's use one of these. Let's just say the ushers. Let's pretend that the ushers here are of a different sequence of numbers. And so instead of giving them a number between 1 and 171, we may want to give them a number in the 300 series. So what we could do here is change this to a 301 and renumber just this smart group here, people who give electronically. We're calling this, again, the ushers doesn't apply in this case, but I'm just using it because it is a smart group that we can use. And you can see that these then people were assigned a number in a different series. If I then change this to the everyone filter, you would see that still the other group of people still have their envelope of 101, starting with 101, and then you'll see intermingled in there people that were part of the electronic giving series of numbers. So there is a way to be able to renumber in different series of numbers for the purpose that you might have at your church. In this case, let's just go back to our members. Who have contributed to any fund during the year 2018, any amount. All right, once you have your renumbering and your assignments completed, you have two ways that you can go about enabling them. You can, in the lower right corner here, you can apply the change right now. That would make it effective today, and as soon as you've done that, the envelope numbers will activate and be enabled. Or there's the option here to schedule for a later date, and that comes in handy. You'd be able to reassign envelopes near the tail end of the year, November, December, and then schedule it to happen on usually like the first Saturday in January. That way, as you schedule an envelope reassignment, You'll have a couple days maybe in the beginning of January still to get your offerings logged in for the prior year. And so if you kind of go with the idea of enabling that or scheduling that to happen on a Saturday, that will give you a couple days to work with. When we click the Apply Now button, you'll get a confirmation saying that you're about to apply changes to 75 envelopes. And that's just showing the number of envelopes that are being changed. It's just reminding you here that it is going to take place immediately. So when you see some of these notification windows, it's a good idea to read through them. I know at times you just kind of glaze over it and you click Apply Now, but make sure that it is what you want to actually happen. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. I don't want to apply the change yet. The other option here, as I said earlier, is to schedule, and this allows you, it tells you first how many envelopes you're renumbering, and then it will also allow you by clicking in the date field to choose a date in the calendar. So for 2020, what you might want to do is use January 4th. That way it would give you the first 3 days of January to make sure that all offerings for the December 29th have been entered in. And so that's how we would schedule a envelope reassignment to happen. I'm going to go ahead and click Save in this case, just to show you what you'll see on your main screen then. All right, well, this then brings us back, once we've saved it, it brings us back to the envelope assignment page, and now in the upper left corner it shows that it's scheduled for January 4th in 2020. We can return back to our envelopes view and come out of this reassignment by clicking the back button. This brings us back to the original envelopes view that you get to from the settings in the envelopes view. I'm going to close that filter drawer. And what this now shows is that you do have an envelope reassignment schedule. It's here in the shaded bar, showing that the 75 given units have a different envelope scheduled for January 4th. We can always go back into it and edit it. And so if you've already scheduled it sometime in November, December, and then you find out you need to make some changes, that is available here to be edited with just a click of the button. And then that takes us in to our reassignment project here, and showing here in the upper left corner that it is scheduled for January 4th. You can make any kind of change that you want. Maybe Sally Baxter isn't going to get scheduled an envelope after all, so you can clear her envelope number and then click the square to not renumber, and you could then actually even renumber again. We still have our smart group applied, where people who are living, who are members now and who have contributed to any fund, we can click renumber, and it takes into account that Sally no longer is going to take envelope 2, so it assigns it to the next person in line, the Beltons. And what we can do then, since we're still in this scheduled project here, we can just click the Save button. It's once again now showing that we're renumbering 76 envelopes because we made that one change. It still is scheduled for January 4th, and we can save it. Go back to our main envelopes screen, close the filter drawer, and there is our edited scheduled job. If for some reason let's see, let's go back to the edited or the scheduled job here. If you've made a complete mess of things and you don't want to hold on to that scheduled job, then in the lower right corner is the option here to delete the whole scheduled job, which I'm going to do right now. And then you can start from scratch. That has removed it. We're back on the main menu of envelopes. It has the date of today, and there's no reminder here that we have a scheduled job any longer. This option down here at the bottom, at the moment, we still have, well, let's say that we made a few changes. 304, we want this person to have 412. You'll see that there are the small black dots that show that changes have been made. If for some reason while you've made a number of changes and you want to kind of erase that and go back to the beginning, you have the option here to discard changes. That will put the envelope numbers right back to what they were and allow you to start from scratch again. Okay. I think that pretty much covers envelopes. Just give me a moment here. All right, let's also take a look at, since we're talking about envelopes, is getting a list of envelope numbers to the counters. If you have a situation like that at your church, the way we would do that is we would navigate over to the people view on the navigation bar here in the upper left corner. And within the people view, there's the option here for givers that we want to take. The givers view shows your contributors here on the left side, and if they are giving jointly, it will put their names together, like here, like David and Suzanne Abbott. It will list their address. It has what their envelope number is right now and what their next envelope number would be. If I had kept that scheduled assignment, it would then show what the next envelope will be as the date approaches. And then what type of giver this is, if it's an individual or a married couple giving jointly. In this view, we can choose to select certain columns and ignore the other ones. Right now, all of the columns are shown, but let's just say that we wanted to print envelope box labels since we are on the subject of envelope numbers. I'm going to go ahead and ignore the address column, and let's go with next envelope number and also get rid of the type. And let's just say the next envelope number was the scheduled list of assignments that I had for January 1st. The way to print an envelope listing then would be to click on print once you have the exact envelope that you wanted, the next year's envelope, and it would give you a listing of all of your contributors and their envelope numbers. As you can see, it has also listed other folks in the database who weren't assigned an envelope number. So we don't want those people here on this report. So I'm going to go ahead and click out of the preview, the tab here at the top. What we want to do is, once again, similar to envelopes view, we want to apply that filter that we had created. So once again, on the fly, let's change this to members first. Then we have our people who are living, who are members now. And then we want to add a trait. We want to say those. We could either go with those who have contributed to any fund during the year, but we also have an option down here of who have an envelope number. So people who have an envelope number at all. That sounds like a good group of people to use for this printout, because it should only be showing us names that have envelope numbers assigned. We can close the filter drawer. That way, when we click the print button, scroll down the list, it ends with the last person here that has an envelope number assigned. So you could then print this off and give this to the counters. This is listed in envelope number view. We can close the preview, and we may want to, well, in this case, we did renumber envelopes in alphabetical order, but I did want to point out here that you can click on the column header giver name, and this does give a slightly different sort order by the last name of the individual, Abbott Alexander Baxter. And so in some cases, depending on how you've assigned envelope numbers, then the envelope numbers will be a little bit out of sequence because you've got the left side, you've got it sorted by giver name. So you might want to give a printout to your counters in both sort methods, one by envelope number and then also one by name, in case they need to find the name of the person and what envelope number they had. So those are two different sort methods. You can also always download this to Excel. All right, let's see, what else do we want to cover here? All right, we're running here on the 10:42. Let's go and jump into pledges. I need to kind of pick up the pace here a little bit. So under collections, we're going to talk about pledges for a moment. Right now, in this particular view, we have not entered in pledges for the 2019 year yet. Oh, and that reminds me, let's go ahead and cover some pledge rules first before we dive into pledges. We've talked about these prerequisites. We're right here on pledges. Let me advance the screen a little bit. I did not cover all of the agenda earlier. I'm sorry, but we'll get back to these. All right, pledge rules. Pledge rule number one, pledges can be entered at any time regardless of the date. So you could enter them in prior to the year that has begun. We could enter in pledges for 2019 back in 2018. Or here we could enter in pledges as of today, March 12th, and it would still apply to the offerings that have already been given in 2019. Pledge rule number two, offering records entered into Church360 members are automatically attached to the active pledge for that time period. So anyone who gives an offering to a particular fund that was mentioned in a pledge, it will be applied to that active pledge during that time frame. Rule number three, two pledges cannot be entered for the same contributor for the same giving fund within the same date range. So you can't plug in a pledge for all 12 months of the year and then put in another pledge for the same contributor, maybe just months July through December for the same fund. It can be entered in for a different fund, but you just can't overlap any of the contributor, fund, and date range at all. Those need to be unique. Pledge rule number four, new pledges should be entered each year. And what that means is that you shouldn't take, let's say, last year's pledge from 2018 and just change the dates on it if John and Mary tell you they want the same thing as they had pledged last year for this year. And you shouldn't change any dates. You should actually enter in a complete new record for that. All right, let's go back to our pledges view here in Church360. I'm going to go ahead and enter in a giver. Let's just use myself. I'm feeling generous today, so I'm going to give $500, let's say every other week. Starts January 1st, ends, let's go out to the end of the year, December 31st, and that's going to cover the general fund. So I can add a pledge, that line then gets entered in underneath. So let's say I also wanted to give $10 every month for the same time period. Now, I can't use the same fund. That would then duplicate the record, be a duplication of a record that I have below. So let's just say I'm going to give $10 a month to the mission fund. And then let's also maybe use Dave and Sue Abbott. They want to give $150 every month to the general fund, fund number 1. So that's how we would add pledges for the current year. Right now, this screen is being filtered by showing only active pledges. That's what we're just working with right now, is this year's. Let's say that I've made a mistake, an error, and I didn't actually want to give $500 every other week. It wanted to be $500, let's say, every month. We can make any change to the pledge that's on the display and then just update it with clicking the save option here. Once again, similar to the other displays in envelopes and so forth, we have our delete button here on the far right. We can hover our mouse over that symbol and then choose to delete a pledge if something was entered incorrectly. And as I spoke about earlier in our pledge rules, you can enter in those pledges at any point in time during the year or prior to the year, and it will then make all of the appropriate links. And as you can see here, once we added Dave and Susan Abbott's pledge, it already is showing that they've given $1,575 to date here in 360 members. Earlier I spoke about how this is showing active pledges. The other option that is available here, you can see all pledges if you need to refer to what someone gave maybe a prior year. I'm going to go ahead and click on the showing all pledges, whether they're active or inactive. You can see the first 2 that I've entered in for 2019 are here at the top, but all of the others underneath then were for last year. And as you scroll down, it will just continue to go even into prior years. Here's the 2017 year. And so you're able to see additional detail as well. I'll go back to active. 2 other options here at the top of the screen, once again, are download. You can download what's being displayed on the screen to Excel. That would give us the 2 lines that we've entered in. If you need to do some other type of analysis or use Excel to tweak what you see or to maybe sort it in a different way, that would be available in Excel. And also the option to print here in the upper right corner. Once again, this will show in either portrait mode or landscape mode, and in landscape you might get an additional column or 2. And then once again, just to print this on paper, you would just right click on the screen and choose print. You could also use the shortcut Control P to print to your printer there. All right, I'll close the preview window. All right, it's 10:50. We're a little bit, just a few minutes over halfway. Why don't we go ahead and take a brief intermission? That way you can take time to use the restroom, or there may be some questions that you have that our support staff, Rod, will look at, and he'll try to answer those as we go along too, if you have any. Let's go ahead and bring up our timer, and I'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. Okay, we're back from intermission. I hope you had a chance to catch a breather and maybe use the restroom and ask any questions that you might have had. Got a chance to stretch your legs. I did as well. So we're ready to go. What we're going to progress into right now is actually entering offerings and getting into the offerings view then at this point. All right, our offerings view is on the navigation bar at the top. Click on offerings. One of the most important areas of this screen here in offerings view is the date range that's up here in the upper left corner of the screen. When you hover over the text, you'll see it kind of gets shaded a blue or turquoise color, and you can click on that. That's an active area, and it will provide you with a from date, which it opens up to by default, and a to date. And you can change those right here within the window. Here it's set on April 4th. I could make this April 1st. And then we can just click in the area of the to date and change that as well to the 7th. And when we click away, that kind of sets the date range here at the top. And it also shows us here on this graph in the middle of what time frame during the timeline that we're viewing. A way to navigate through this timeline is you can left click in this frame here that we've got, and left click and hold, and then drag that same time frame over to the right to see other parts of the year, or over to the left, whichever way that you'd like. And it will then show you the appropriate information for that time frame. If you needed to go to even back further, you can click on the arrow here on the left, or actually there's one on the right as well. But you can click on the left arrow here. That moves the timeline a little farther back, and we can just continue to slide back here. And right now, as you can see on the screen here on the left column, we're back into October of 2017. So that's a way just to navigate the timeline, is by dragging and dropping that view. And it will be whatever view you have set up here in the upper left corner. We could go to just actually showing a month in the 2018 year. Let's just say March 1st to March 31st. So you'll see that our viewing area has been minimized down to just a month, and you can drag that then across a month's view across the timeline. And what is displayed once you release it up here will be the offerings for that time period. You can also drag the viewing area with the handles that are on the left and right side. So if you wanted to expand that out, you can expand it out to the left and expand it out to the right, maybe the beginning of August. And it will show that time frame from August through, let's go through the end of the year. But the easiest way to get precise with it is using the date range up here in the upper left corner. I want to go back to, let's see, April 8th, and I like the month of July. Maybe July. That had a lot of funds with different colors there, just to kind of give you that visual here of having different colors assigned to the funds. All right, right now we're showing the individual offerings in the offerings view here at the top. We can see that we're showing 474 offerings for the group Everyone. You can use, once again, this filter as you have in other screens by using a smart group, which are those that are signified by a little light bulb here on the left, or even tags that have a little icon of a tag in front of it. if you needed to isolate just a certain set of offerings for a certain group of people in your database. You could look at the offerings of just members that are in your church, or you can use once again the 3-bar button to the right of the filter here in the upper right corner. This will open up the filter tray, and you could apply another filter, or even change one of these people who are living who are not members. You could then see the giving of your non-members, and in this case, during this time frame, we didn't have anybody give who are non-members. I'll close the filter drawer once again. Over here on the left, you'll have the date given. Following that, you'll have the event. If there is an event that handles or that has been assigned that offerings can be taken, the event would show here. Then we have the name and envelope number of the contributors, followed by the column of what the contribution, what fund it was given to, the amount, what type of offering it was. There's cash, check, electronic, and gifts in kind. The ability to put in a check number, and then the total amount of that line. Now you'll see here as we scroll down the page that as I hold the mouse over a certain set of records, you'll see a peachish shading in the background. That signifies that all of those offerings are part of one batch. So you'll see here that on January 1st, all of those offerings were from one batch. January 24th, the shading got applied to that group, so forth and so on down the list. If you need to edit a batch of offerings, an offering that you had put in, well, I tell you what, instead of talking about editing a batch, let's first go into entering some offerings. Let's advance to, let's say, the current month. I don't think there was really anything given yet in March, so we're going to choose the 10th of March. So right now we have an empty screen. I mean, you can have this set up to be for the first months here in of the year. Let's take this out to the end of March. So we have the first, I'm sorry. There we go. So the first quarter is showing here in the year of 2019. We want to add a batch just for this last week. What you do is you click on the new batch button here at the top in the upper left corner next to the heading. This gives you the option to enter in what date you want to do offerings for. So we wanted to do March 10th, this past Sunday. And then the ability to choose an event. Let me change that real quick so we have some options. I just want to be able to show you what that looks like here. So I'm going to go to March 2019 to the 10th. We have a traditional service event. I want to mark that offering is taken. We also have, let's see, March 10th, a contemporary worship service where offering can be taken. All right, now let's go back to our view that we were on earlier. We click on new batch. We choose our date of March 10th. Now we have two events on that particular day that have been enabled to record offerings. We're going to go ahead and select the traditional worship service. And then let's add a batch of offerings. So this is the edit batch window. You'll see that the event that we've chosen is March 10th. It's traditional worship. Right now, the total for the batch is 0. This edit button here at the top is to be able to edit like that heading information that we just had selected a moment ago. Let's say you might have accidentally chose the wrong date for the batch. You can always change that here. and you can even choose an event or just select no event. But we'll go ahead with what I intended to do here. The default line that appears is loose offerings, and you might have several of those to put in. Let's just go ahead and enter in some loose offerings here that you might have gotten through the plate. The way that the offerings entry screen is designed is that once you are here on your line, you don't really have to move your hands off the keyboard. You can do everything just by tabbing to the next field. In this case, right now we're on the loose offering column. If I press the tab button, it goes to the payment type. You'll see the 4 different types of payment, which you can select a numeric key for on your keypad. The 1 is cash, 2 is check, 3 is electronic, and 4 is gifts in kind. If you chose the check option, let's do that. That's option number 2, so I'm pressing the 2 key. That automatically kind of darkens this icon a little bit. You may or may not have seen that. But it advances you here to the check number window in case you do have a check. So we'll put in check number 1249. This was a loose offering just given to the general fund, and they gave $100. I once again press tab. You can enter in a memo. In this case, what you could do with loose offerings, if you have someone who gave, who's not a member of the church, you don't have any information on them, but they gave you a check, they signed it, John Smith, you could put the name in there. And then that way, if for some reason somebody called into the church at the end of the year and asked for a contribution statement, a copy of what they gave when they visited, you would be able to come back here and find out what they had given during the year. At that point in time, you would maybe need to get a little information about them. You may want to have their address so you can send them the contribution statement. So you may want to put them into your system as a non-member visitor type of thing, and then be able to give them that contribution statement. But just as a preliminary step, as a loose offering, you can enter in their name here. Once you get to the end of the line, what you'll want to do is press the enter key. As it says here on the far right, press enter to add the offering. That will then drop you down to the next line where you can then enter in additional lines of offerings. Let's go ahead and maybe do one more loose offering. This time it's going to be cash. And somebody let's see, we're going to give it to the general fund. Some child maybe gave just some change. So we're going to put in 75 cents. And when we get to the end of the line, I press enter, and you'll see that even cents can be added in. It doesn't have to be rounded numbers. Once I'm down on the next line, let's go ahead and then begin to add some offerings for people. So in this case, if I remember correctly, I assigned myself envelope number 3. So all I do is type in a 3, and it then brings up my name. I can tab over. I gave cash, which is number 1, to the general fund. I gave $150. I press enter, it drops down to the next line. Dave and Sue Abbott, as you can see, are here. They're 101. I can either type in 101 to bring up Dave and Sue Abbott, or I can type in their last name. And there's Abbott. Let's just go down to a different, let's see, there should be something in here for Martin. You've got the Martins here listed. Their numbers are 137, 138, so we could just type in 137. That gets exactly to the one you're looking for. So there are a number of ways of depending on how the offerings were given at your church, if it's by envelope number, you can easily enter in an offering for any of those types of situations. So I'll go ahead with Chuck and Kathy Martin. They gave by check as well, number 2. let's have them give to the building fund. They chose to give $100 this week. I press enter. So you'll see that the color coordinated that we assign to the funds will show up here on the screen as well. Now let's say that someone in your congregation gave to several of the funds all in the same week. So let's go ahead. I'll use my number 3 at the moment, and I gave cash. Let's see, I gave cash to the general fund above. Let's go, I wanted to give cash to the building fund, and I gave $50. I press, in this case, if there are more offerings for one contributor, what you want to do, instead of pressing enter to add the offering, you want to press the tab key. The tab key will drop you down to a secondary line for the same contributor and allow you to enter in another offering. For the youth fund, I wanted to give $25 to that. I'm going to press tab again. Drops down to the third. I want to also give to the music ministry because I like music. I know that they need money for equipment, so I'm going to give them $100 this week. Feeling generous. At this point, I'm going to press the enter key to add the offering. And you'll see that for each of the funds that I gave to, the building fund, youth fund, ministry fund, all color coordinated, the amounts that I gave to each, and then the total of those 3 is put in here on the side. So that's once again using the tab key to drop down from line to line. Once you're done with that contributor, then you press the enter key to have the offering added. As you're adding offerings to the screen, you'll see here in the subtotals are the batch totals that it continues to accumulate, and as you have more offerings appear for more funds, the fund will add, as like this last one here, the music ministry was added of $100, and also the different types of payments, cash, check, that's all totaled. What you can do here is if you, there's a couple ways to print out a report. If you use the print option here in the upper right corner, it will show you the individual detail on the top, followed by the batch totals here on the bottom. Let's say you didn't want all of the detail. What you could do, I'm going to close this preview window, you could just highlight the text here at the bottom with your cursor. Copy that. I should have Microsoft Word here, just a moment. We could then paste that into a document, and then there would be your batch report where you could add the date and the Sunday service that it was, and give that report to the appropriate person there at your church. All right, if for some reason, let's go ahead. Oh, let me point out while we're on this edit batch window that here in the lower left corner is the ability to delete a whole batch. So in case there was a mistake and you wanted to re-enter that in, you can just delete the whole batch as a whole. If you've entered something in, for example, here I've got myself, I gave to the building fund, youth fund, and ministry fund, but maybe this general fund one wasn't correct. Maybe it wasn't me who gave it. I could go click on that row of the offering. I could change the contributor who gave it. Let's go with Teresa Carter. And so you can make the change. Once again, on the far right side, click the save button, and it changes then the contributor who gave that amount. If you, for some reason, made a mistake completely and that doesn't belong there, can always, once again, hover over the circle, minus sign, it turns red. You click on it, left click on it, the delete to confirm is there. You click on that button and that offering is gone. Let's see, once again, we can edit the date. Maybe it was March 3rd that this offering batch was done. We can save it with that change, and now it's changed it to March 3rd. Just wanting to show you some of the changes that you can feel free to make if afterwards you find that you've made an error. Download, this can also be downloaded to Excel. In this case, let's edit this a little bit. Choose a smaller font to show more. So it's basically the offering detail that you can also just as well export out to Excel if there's any other analysis that needs to be done, or given it to a treasurer or financial secretary. So that's all an option here in the offerings, the edit offering batch window. Once we're done entering the batch, we can then go back to offerings view here on the navigation bar at the top, and you'll see right here at the top the March 3rd offerings. In this case, if you remember, we entered more offerings than this, and it might take you by surprise. Hey, there were more offerings that we entered in. Well, you'll have to keep in mind what type of filter you have applied. This is only showing the offerings from members. I'll go back to showing everyone, and then that shows the additional loose offerings that we had put in our batch today, March 3rd. You'll see that on the left. When you take your mouse further down, it then once again highlights once you reach a different batch. If you needed to edit the batch that's in the display here, once again, you just click in the shaded peach area of the batch. I usually kind of direct people to click on the date of the batch. You can click on it. It takes you right back to our edit batch window. Right now it's saying no event because I've switched the date from March 10th to the 3rd. Just to show you, let's go back to our traditional worship setting. There we go. So the event is shown here in the upper left corner. I think that pretty much covers entering offerings. Let's go on ahead to reports. Let's say that it's time to either print contribution statements or quarterly or at the end of the year. Where the place that we do that is we navigate to the people view. We want to go to people givers. You'll know, remember that there are 4 views to people: individuals, households, givers, marriages. We want the givers view. I'm going to show everyone on the screen at the moment. So this is our people givers view. We've still have the certain columns selected. I'll go ahead, well, let's just click everything, show all the columns. Now let's maybe take off next year's, or the next envelope column. All right, so this is showing all of your the people givers in your database. Once again, you can enter in offerings to people who have envelopes, and even just by name, people who have not who do not have an envelope assigned. So that's where you'll see gaps here in this case, because this is showing everyone in the database. What we want to do is isolate or filter this display just to show those people who gave, let's maybe go with a quarter statement here, who gave here in 2019. So once again, if you remember, we needed to apply a filter for that. So I'm going to click on the 3-bar button here in the upper right corner, and we are going to select a trait that says people who have contributed to any fund during the year 2019, any amount. That's only going to then display those who actually gave money to the church here in 2019. So that's what is currently showing. This is 72 people. And that way I know every contribution statement I generate is a worthwhile generation because there's been some type of money given. So once I have the display in People Givers view here, isolating just those who have given with my custom filter group here, I can then go up to the download link in the upper right corner and choose contribution statements. We can enter in any date range here in the date range fields, or you can use the shortcuts of last year. If I click on that link, it would show 2018, but I wanted to just do the first quarter here of January through March. Right now, it's only taking it month or year to date, and so obviously you wouldn't be printing a first quarter statement prior to the ending of the quarter, but we're just going to do it for this particular example. You have in this, once you've clicked the date range, you have the option to generate empty statements for members who didn't give. In this case, I've already filtered our display to only show people who actually gave to the church. So I don't need to check that box at all. We could generate the PDF statements right now, but while I'm here, I do want to show that it is also an option where you can review your statements and then email them to those people who have given an email address and have let you know that they'd rather have the contribution statement emailed to them. So that's an option here as well. At the top, we do have another tab. There's the General tab, the Customize tab. In order to customize the contribution statements a little bit more, you have the option to include summary of givers' pledges with your contribution statement. And you also have the option here to include an itemized list of each of the offerings. If by default these aren't checked, and if, let's just say, you wanted to provide the contributor a summary of what they've given to the individual funds so far this year, you would just leave that unchecked. And that might be the appropriate setting for a quarterly or biannually statement. But certainly at the end of the year, when you're recapping the whole year, you most likely will want to include an itemized list of each of the offerings so that each of the contributors can confirm that all of their individual offerings were given and were accounted for tax purposes. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just check both options to show you the difference of them. Here by default, there's an IRS message that's put in here. You can certainly change that and just type in additional information if you needed to, or you can always just reset it and it will have the default message here. You can also have the ability to enter in the federal ID of the church to have that appear on the church statement as well. I'll go ahead at this time and then generate the contribution statements. Shows that it's working here on the button. In just a minute, this button should turn like a light green and say that it's ready to download. Then we'll take a look at and preview those. There it is. So it's completed processing. Now it's ready to download. I click on the download button. It opens up a tab here at the top, a preview window, and there's our statements. As I mentioned, I checked the box to show pledge progress. That's here in the middle of the screen. And then I also checked the box to show the detail of the individual offerings given, and that's shown here at the bottom. Please note that this is in 2 columns. We've had calls sometimes where somebody might say, well, this is only showing 3 of my offerings and not the 5 that I gave during the period, not realizing that this was a second separate column. Kind of goes down the left side and then over to the right and down the right side. So just be aware of that. We can page through the number of contribution statements that appear. Oh, there's mine. Here we go. This is showing I didn't have any pledge. Well, yes, I did. I'm sorry. I did enter in a pledge earlier in our training for the general fund. I did give an offering to the building fund. You'll see that here. The music ministry and the youth fund, it tracks all of those in different categories here, and provides the individual offerings for each fund as well. Let's go ahead and close this preview window. Oh, by the way, I mean, we can print these right to the printer if you've, after reviewing them, and they're good to go. And depending on your browser, the print option is oftentimes here in the upper right corner. Let's close the preview for a moment and let me just show you the difference here if we were to download contribution statements. Let's take the customization of the summary for pledges and the itemized list off. Generate, download. Scroll down to mine. Mine's a good example here of several funds. So it shows the 3 funds that I actually gave to. Some of the folks above my contribution statement just have the 1 fund that they've given to, and it just gives a summary. So that's how that appears as well. Let's see. Let's also take just a quick moment to go over another report. We can look at what's called a trend report to kind of review how offerings compare over a particular time period. For that, I'm going to the navigation bar at the top and clicking on Reports. Here under Reports, you'd be able to begin a new report by clicking on the New Report button here at the upper left. We want to use the last item here, a trends report. I'm going to delete what's currently here. This is for attendance. But what we want to do is create a new trends report. The option for new is here at the top. What we can do is choose offerings, show offerings to all funds for everyone. You can provide the report name here. We'll click add, and it shows on the bar graph here, on the bar graph, the different summaries for each of the months. It currently is set for a 6-month time frame. Over here on the left, we have the option to choose either a line graph or the bar graph. Right now, bar is selected. If we go line graph, there you have your line graph. And to the left of those 2 options, then is your zoom level. Right now, it I believe defaults to usually the 6-month. If we want to drill down a little deeper into it, we can click the plus sign here at the top. That will go into then a 3-month view of your offerings. And then if you click it one more time, it drills down to a 6-week time frame. So let's actually take this maybe back a little farther in time, back to just February and part of January. It shows the 6 weeks, the end of January into February, and shows how offerings came in for those particular weeks. If you hold your cursor over the bar, it will show you the amount of money: $5,035, $5,635, and so forth. Now let's say you wanted to compare that. Oh, before I go to comparisons, let's also zoom out. We started here at the 6-month view. Zooming out, there's your 12-month view. And if we set this, let's see, this would be all of January, beginning here, January 2018 to December. That's what 2018 looked like. If we take that out even further, it goes to a 3-year comparison, 2018, 17, 16. And if we go one step further, we've got a 5-year comparison here. Now, let's go back to the 6 months. Let's say we want to compare this to the same time frame last year in 2017, because right now we've got showing the 2018 year. We can click the compare button at the top and choose to add another year. You'll see that another line was entered at the bottom. That's for 2017. It shows the figures here, the dollar amounts as they compare, as well as by holding your cursor over the bar graph itself. The pop-up information bubble will show the appropriate information about that. So let's say then we actually wanted to take it out to another year, to 3 years. There are your bar graphs and how that compares over the 3 period length of time, and to the extent we can go out to 4 years in this view. And this will show you the dollars here once again. If you chose line graph instead, that would be how the line graph works. Now if you choose to, let's go back maybe to just two years comparison. Let's go ahead and click the print option here at the top. This will include the bar graph in this particular printing of the report. Let's go out to landscape because it seems that our November amounts, it's a little bit too much information to fit in portrait mode. So we'll go out to landscape. There's a nice rendering of for the last 6 months there in 2018. I'm going to go ahead and close that preview. Let's see here, I wanted to go. If we download that to an Excel spreadsheet, then there's the information in a spreadsheet form. It does not print the bar graph in this case, but this is useful then for appropriate people in your congregation. All right, we're coming here to the close. It looks like I might be just a couple minutes over here. I wanted to cover real quick also our electronic giving for offerings Vanco. I've got another tab set up for that here in the top. This is just to show you how we work with a third-party company, Vanco, and working with them, we have an interface that imports in offerings that people have given electronically or e-giving. That integration is here also in the settings in the upper right corner. Under the admin section, there's Vanco integration. If we click on that, it takes us to the Vanco integration page where I've already got our Vanco integration information plugged in. If you were signing up for the first time, you would enter in your start date when you want the offerings to start being imported into Church360 members. Your client ID is something that's provided by Vanco. Your user ID is provided by Vanco, and the password is provided by Vanco. Those 3 pieces of information you'll need to get from Vanco. And then you have the option to either make this account with Vanco active or not. When you've got it all set up and integrating, I believe it's 2 times a day, Church360 members will sync with Vanco and pull in offerings. So as offerings are pulled in, you'll end up seeing that information begin to accumulate here, that there are 12 synced givers and 14 synced funds. Now, when you first start, none of the givers or the funds will be synced. I'm going to click on givers here just to kind of give you an example. This will take you to the sync page. What you have here in this left column is the information that comes from Vanco. So when a new contributor gives through Vanco, in this case, Dave Abbott, his offering comes in, but you'll see here on the right side, this is the 360 members information, that that Dave Abbott's information has not yet been matched to a member's giver here in 360 members. So in order to match those, you would just click in that field there and be able to, from a drop-down, select the name. In this case, it would be Dave Abbott, and we would select that, and then he would be synced as we have down here below with some of the other individuals. Now let's go back to our previous view once again. In the same way, as people give offerings, they give to particular funds that you have set up in 360 Members. When we click on that, you'll see that most of these funds have already been matched here in 360 Members, but there are a few, just for the example, that have not been matched. So as someone maybe gives for the first time electronically to the building fund, then that offering would come in from Vanco and require a match be made. So in the same way, you click here on the field here in the member side, and you'd be able then to pick the fund that matches the information coming in from Vanco here on the left. So obviously we would go with this the same fund name, the building fund, and you would click link then to make that link. I'm going to leave that alone just for the example here in the future. All right, it's 7 minutes overtime. I apologize for that. Let's start wrapping this up here. Let's go back to our PowerPoint here. Let's take a quick quiz to see if you've picked up a few things from this training session. I'm going to pick our first quiz question here. Okay, I believe you should see a question here that giving funds are used to track why and how much was given to a church. Whether that's true or false, I'd like to ask you to go ahead and make a selection there. Give you just another minute or two, or a few more seconds, I should say. All right, very good. It looks like a number of you have responded. Let's go ahead and close that question. And yeah, the majority of you answered correctly. Is this true or false? Giving funds are used to track why and how much was given to the church? Yes, it's true. Inside of Church360 Members, you will use giving funds to track the reasons and why church members contributed to your church. You can even assign fund numbers to the contribution funds to speed up the offering entry process. Let's go ahead on to question number 2. Doing very well. True or false? Offerings can be recorded for people without an envelope number. Let me put that question out there just a moment. There you go. Please answer true or false to that. Give you just a few more moments. Okay, very good. I'm going to close the question. Yes, 100% of you got that right. As long as the person is entered into Church360 Members, offerings can be recorded for that person. Having an envelope is not a requirement. All right, let's go on to the next question. True or false? Once a batch has been posted, there is no way to edit the batch or reprint the batch report. Go ahead and post that question out to you. Please answer true or false. Very good. Very good. 100% of you answered false to that. To edit a batch, you go to the offerings view and click on the date of the offering in the body of the window. Once inside the batch, you use the print button to print the batch report, or you can use that copy and paste as I showed you earlier. Very good. All right, true or false? This is, I believe, the 4th question. Pledges can be entered at any time, regardless of the date. Is that true or false? There you go. Please answer. All right, very good. I'm going to close the question there. And it's true, 100% of you got this right again. Users can enter next year's pledges now, and it allows a pledge to be entered once a pledge drive has started as well. Let's go on to the final question. Contribution statements can only be generated from the people view. Let's see how you do on this one. We have a little bit of fluctuation there. Give you just another moment for you to give your final answer. All right, very good. I'm going to close the question. And in this case, we had a 50-50 answer, so I may not have really brought that out clear enough. It is true that to generate an email or email contribution statements that you will need to go to the people view. Once again, you'll just be clicking on people in your navigation bar, and you'll go to people givers, that particular view, where then you'll be able to generate the contribution statements from that. So it's people givers. Try to remember that here. We can, if you have any questions or need help with that, you can always call in and we'll be glad to help you. All right, do you have any questions? I'm going to give you a moment in time if there's any additional things that you'd like an answer to, and let me review where we are with questions. Rod may have taken care of most all the questions at this point, but we'll see what's still available. So just a moment. I'll be back in just a minute. All right, thank you. It looks like Rod has gotten to a number of the questions. Let's go to Charla's question here that where Rod left off. We are finding that some of our members are giving out of different financial investments that are not tax deductible, but want to make sure that their donation is counted towards their pledge. And yeah, I believe that that can be done through, let's say, that's right, we didn't really cover the gifts in kind much. Let's go back to our offerings view, the batch that we had available. There's the option here to provide a non-tax deductible gift. We'll use me as an example here. Tim Burt. I'm going to give a gift in kind, number 4. Let's just say that I wanted that to apply to the general fund. Usually the amount is something that the giver puts in their taxes, but in this case, I believe we could, let's just say that it was a $250 more. Memo must be present for the gift in kind. Let's go back up here. There we go. So a gift in kind option was made. In this case, I mean, if we're going to assign it to a fund, we really don't want that to show up on the contribution statement. So once again, as we went to funds view earlier, I showed you how to create a fund that would be excluded from contribution statements. And so you would probably want to create a fund for that that purpose. But in that respect, I mean, there would still be the entry that even though it's a fund that doesn't show, there would be an entry that that was given to the church as a gift in kind here in the offerings view. All right, Charlie, if you have any more questions about that, or we can get into depth more if we talk on the phone. Let's see. At this point in time, there's a question here from Wanda, just a suggestion for our purposes. It would be good if we could enter a general pledge to which contributions to any fund would apply. In this case, I believe that in pledges, you are required to select a fund. Yeah, there's no option for no fund, but we can certainly make note of that and submit that as feedback into our development team and talk about that further. So that's a good point to make. We'll see what we can do about that, Wanda. All right, let's see. Patricia has sent one. Patricia, I think I'll go ahead and take your question separately outside of the webinar here. You're talking about restricted funds and general fund. I want to get a little bit more information about that. I think that might do a little bit more with either 360 Ledger, kind of a finance area. So I'll cover that with you after the fact, or we'll answer you back here and get an answer for you. We can go into that deeper too on the phone as well. I'm just scanning over some of these other questions here, just a moment. And I think and Patricia, with some of your other questions here, I think I'll go ahead and address those too with a phone call at this point in time, just to get a little more information. I know I'm running late here, and so I want to respect some of the others who might want to leave. I know a number of people have left. So let me go ahead and we'll get answers back to some of you on these other questions that may have come in here just as of late. I want to go ahead and just thank you for attending today, and I hope that it was beneficial. I hope it was enjoyable, and if you have any further questions at all, our number is listed on the screen, as well as our email address where you can contact support, and we'd be glad to take any of your questions if you'd like to jump into a little more detail, or if you think of a question later that you'd like to ask regarding the training today, you can certainly do that by letting us know either by email or phone. Once again, thank you for attending. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.